tonight I wanted to have a chat about knowing ourselves in writing and in publishing and anything that we're working on, but especially in writing, because I was talking with Charity Mongrain about this and about just the things that go into bringing a book into the world and knowing who we are in the midst of all the things that need to happen to bring a book into the world, especially if we're self-publishing or co-publishing a book where the author stays super involved. And when you're in a more traditional model where the publisher pays for everything and the publisher makes most of the decisions, and if you're doing a book with illustrations or a lot of pictures, then the publisher will usually make decisions about that too. So in a traditional model, the author has less to do with the production and even with a lot of the promotion than in a self-publishing or a co-publishing model. So I wanted to just talk about, assuming more of a self-publishing or co-publishing model, who are we? Now, first of all, if you're going to bring a book into the world, you need to like writing on some level, unless you're going to hire a ghostwriter. And that's expensive, but people do it. So if you have the resources to hire a ghostwriter or at least a co-writer, someone who can interview you, or if you're a public speaker, maybe they take your talks and convert them into a book. There are all kinds of ways to go about writing a book, but usually the author of a book is actually the author of a book. And so I have a book called Creative Writing for People Who Can't Not Write, and hopefully that's most of you who are watching this video. Are you a creative person who cannot help it? You have to write. You have to write. So a lot of authors are introverts. Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? A lot of people are introverts, or at least people who are really comfortable being alone for long stretches of time, because that's what has to happen in order to get a book into the world. Somebody has to sit for long stretches of time and actually do the writing, and then before you can even start thinking about whether or not it's going to be a book. So what stage are you at? Three things I'm going to talk about: stages, temperament, and time constraints or season of life. So what stage are you at in the book production process? Are you still writing your book? If so, then you probably need to be alone a lot. You may be able to find a writers group or some other kind of support group, of creative writing class, something that can help keep those creative juices flowing and encourage you when you hit a wall or you encounter writer's block. But for the most part, it's all on you, and it's a fairly solitary endeavor. So are you there? Or have you finished your manuscript? Have you got your first draft or your second or third draft? So after you write, then you move into revising. You should probably move into revising. Some people feel like, well, this is the way it came to me, it doesn't need any work. But I would argue almost every book needs work, no matter how good the writer is. Most books are not fully formed when they come into the world, the same way that babies are not fully formed when they come into the world. We may say, oh, it's perfect. And we do mean as a baby, it's perfect, but it's not finished. And so books, when they first come to us, it's perfect as a first draft, or it's perfect as a second draft. But often there's more than one revision required. So what are you in the writing phase? Are you in a revising stage? Revising is also often quite a solitary work, and you need to know when you want to get an editor involved. And I highly recommend, even someone, I have 2 master's degrees. I have taught English literature at the college level. I still need an editor, and I really need an editor. Why? Because there are things that I just don't see. I'm too close to the work. So I'm going to say you're going to need an editor at some point. The question is when and where. At what point will you need the editor? Who are you paying? How much do you have to spend? That will also dictate how much editing you collaborate on. So that's when somebody else gets really involved in your book, is when you start engaging an editor. So Are you writing? Are you revising? Are you editing? And who are you working with? That's when, even if you're an introvert, you have to start collaborating with somebody to really polish your book and make it everything that it can be. So, and then you move into, from polishing and editing, you move into producing your book. And again, how much are you going to do on your own? It's dictated by temperament, it's dictated by budget, all kinds of considerations come into it. But you're probably going to want to collaborate with somebody on some level, whether it's cover design or interior layout or just practical things like uploading your book to whatever platform you need to distribute it on. So somewhere somebody's going to be involved. And then promoting your book. My husband was role playing with me one night and we were talking about promotion, and he's like, well, what if I don't like people? And I'm like, well, if you want people to read your book, you're going to have to interact with people on some level, whether you like them or not. So yeah, what stage are you in? That will really dictate who's involved, whether you're solitary or collaborative or something in between. And your temperament, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, that will drive a lot of your decision making. And budget, of course, your wallet will drive a lot of your decision making. And then time constraints will also drive a lot of what you do. So I have this book, Writer Mama, and the subtitle is How to Raise a Writing Career Alongside Your Kids. And I'm sure there are lots of people in Book Hatchers who have raised families and some who are still in the midst of it. And how do you find time to write? How do you carve out that space, physically space and chronologically space? How do you find that space? Who helps you? Do you have to fight for every minute that you get for your writing, or do you find it fairly easy to schedule? And do your kids just respect you for the time and space that you're taking to work on your own writing? So a book like this one is out of print. I think it might still be available as an ebook, and I know you can get them as on the used market. This is a really practical little book. Like, one of the suggestions is keep a little mobile office packed so that whenever you get a chance to leave the house and go to a coffee shop, this is obviously written pre-COVID, whenever you get a chance to leave the house and be on your own, then you could just grab your mobile office and you've got everything you need for your writing. And the same could be true within your own house. Like, if you have this little mobile office and you don't have a lot of space, you can still, when you have time and opportunity, you can have a little corner that you go off to. And so that's for if you've got a lot of people in your house, whether they're young kids or just housemates. But how do you find the space that you need? Is it easy for you in this season of your life, or is it more challenging to figure out where your personal writing can fit in? When was it? Almost a year ago now, I decided I wanted to focus more on my own writing and started to realize that I'm not in that season. I started a blog and I made really good strides at posting every week for about 4 weeks, maybe 3. and then realized that no, the season of life I'm in is about other people's writing, not my own. So I've accepted that my own posting on my blog will be more sporadic, and I have posted some longer stuff on my Facebook page, but for the most part, I'm trying to really help other people get their work out into the world. So what season are you in? Where does your writing fit? Is it a regular practice, or is it more sporadic, or is it something that's going to have to wait till the kids grow up and with just little snippets, little glorious snippets of time? So those are just 3 factors that I wanted to mention, because we've been thinking a lot about who are we. Charity and I, we love the Colby assessment. I've talked about it here before. Today, she and I were comparing our StrengthsFinder results, and it's interesting because we share 2 things that are the same in our top 5 strengths. One is strategic thinking, and the other theme is connectedness. But when you combine those with our other strengths and the order that our other strengths fall in, our results aren't actually the same. So even though we have two very similar strengths, the way they work themselves out in our lives is very different. And so that, and Charity just finished spending a couple of months in Ontario with her family. Was it 2? Yeah, 2 months. And that her parents' house is very, very busy because there's nieces and grandkids coming and going and lots of childcare, and the rhythms are very different than when you're alone or you're an empty nester living on your own, and your time is more your own. So figuring out what your life should look like and how your work should fit in, what's prioritized when and how. Those are big questions, I think. So what do you know about yourself? What do you know about your writing life? What kind of habits do you need to put into place to guard that time? Or what kind of open-handedness do you need to just let go? I really would like to do this, but now is not the time. So how do you figure that out? How do you figure out who are you and when are you and where are you, and how do you prioritize your writing? What stage are you at? Are you still writing your book? Are you having to spend a lot of solitary time? Do you like all that solitary time, or is it more than you really ever wanted to be alone, but it's necessary? Or are you into producing your book? Are you into promoting your book? Are you, again, having to interact with people more than you might naturally be inclined? Or are you in your glory, making up Facebook and Instagram memes and sending out emails, et cetera, et cetera? Are you organized? Do you find yourself less organized, and is it hard to keep track? So yeah, we've been just thinking a lot about who are we? And then another thing we've been thinking about is publishing models. So the model that we've created here in Serotonin and the Book Hatchery is very collaborative and community oriented, and that doesn't suit everybody. Sometimes that's because of the stage of writing that they're in, and sometimes that's just a temperament thing, and other people are like happy as a clam in this collaborative community, and some people are pleasantly surprised. They didn't think they needed the community, and then they get in and they realize, oh, these people have riches to offer me. So that's another factor to consider when you're producing your book and promoting your book, when you're polishing your book even. How much do you need other community around you, and how much are you able to just do things on your own? So I'd be interested to hear in the comments, what are some of the ways that you are wired, and what are some of the things you need, and then what are some of the things that you've been surprised at, like, I didn't think I needed this, but this is everything I needed and more.